Hello everyone, my name is Edward Kim and this is my final project for CIS3367 with Professor Wheeler. Today I would like to analyze an income statement involving both the traditional and variable costing formats. And then we'll use Solver in order to maximize the profit of the company. The company I chose is Apple because it is one of the world's biggest and fastest growing companies, and as an Apple user myself, I'm curious to learn about the margins Apple currently has. As an introduction for those who may not know, an income statement is a document that presents the financial results of a business at a specific point in time. The main components are revenues, expenses, and net income or loss. To start things off, let me walk you through Apple's condensed consolidated income statement I extracted from Q1 and Q2 of their recent 10Q filing as of March 31st, 2018. Please keep note that all numbers are in millions. To get the gross margin, we subtract cost of sales, which is $61,137, and then subtract that by cost of sales, $37,715, and we finally get $23,422. Next, we have our operating expenses as seen here. To get total operating expenses, we add the research and development, selling, general and administrative expenses to get 7,528. And to get operating income, we take the gross margin calculated earlier and subtract it by the total operating expenses, which is $15,894. Other income or expenses are also subtracted to get our income before provision for income taxes as seen here, which is also known as the EBIT. Once we deduct taxes, we finally arrive at the net income or net loss. In this case, $13,822 for March 31st, 2018 and $11,029 for April 1st, 2017. To get a picture of how the company is actually performing, I've done a few financial ratios to evaluate the given numbers. Gross margin is calculated by gross margin over revenues. Operating margin is operating margin over revenues, and net profit margin is net profit over revenues. While it seems that Apple is doing poorly because of the 1% decreases in gross and operating margins, they have actually made up for the difference with a 2% increase in net profit margin, which ultimately offsets the 1% losses. Now that we understand the traditional income statement, we can move on to the next part of our analysis, which specifically digs deeper into Apple's costs. Here we have the income statement for variable costing. To make things simple, I decided to focus on their biggest products, the iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Given by Apple's 10Q report, I estimated the average prices for these types of products and multiplied them by the units sold for the quarter, giving me the gross revenues for each product over here, and the total by summing them up in column E. Using my cost accounting knowledge, I defined the three biggest areas for variable costs: direct materials, direct labor, and variable factory overhead. I put down these costs based on industry averages, and so that in the end, net income is close to what Apple had actually reported, which was around $13 billion. After that, we add these variable costs together and multiply it by the units sold, which is seen in the formula here, equals sum B12 to B14 times B8. After that, we have contribution margin per product, which is simply the gross revenue minus the variable cost per product. For fixed costs, most companies incur the same expenses such as CEO salary, R&D, and rent. I was given the specific amounts for R&D and SG&A. For CEO salary and rent, I had to do a little math and guesstimating to find a reasonable point. Given our revenue and expenses, the total net income for Apple in the 3 months ended was $13 billion. Of course, this is no surprise from a company like Apple. However, in Q1 of 2018, Apple recorded profit of $20 billion, which means that within one quarter, Apple's profit decreased about 35%. Why is that? I personally believe that this was primarily due to the release of the iPhone X back in late fall of 2017. The price for the iPhone X ranged from $1,200 to $1,500, well above the average of their earlier phones. The issue for these phones was that production took much longer and the costs for these phones were significantly higher than their other models. With the low supply and high demand for the iPhone X, sales in the iPhone sector have fluctuated, but Apple hopes to combat the problem at hand soon enough. From this income statement I have here, I want to carry out two different scenarios to see how the company may fare in the years to come. By using Solver, I can maximize, minimize, or set a specific value to a cell of my choice. The first thing I want to do is to see how many products would have to be sold for Apple to break even. So we're going to the Data tab, Solver. The set objective is cell E26 as seen here, with a value of 0, and the changing variable cells will be the units sold from B8 to D8, and the one constraint that we want to put on is that B8 to D8 should be integers. After this, we hit solve, and as you can see, our net income now is 0, and total number of products sold is about 25 million as compared to our 65 million. I'll restore our original values here. 65 million, one more time, 25 million. As you can see, this is an unrealistic outcome for Apple, as they'll have to sell only 25 million products worldwide to break even compared to the 65 million they actually sold in Q2. Since we established what it takes for Apple to break even, let's take it to another extreme and try to maximize their profits based on some theoretical constraints. We're going to do the same exercise as before, but just with different constraints. Taking into consideration that Apple's production of iPhone X's are rather developing at a slower pace, I would like to set a maximum number of units produced to make this scenario more achievable for the company. Presuming that Apple will get up to speed with the iPhone X productions, we're going to say that Apple can only produce up to 60 million iPhones, 15 million iPads, and 10 million Macs. So we're going back to Solver, and as you can see, I've already set the objective for E25 net income to maximum, and changing cells B7 to D7, the units sold. And the constraints I have hit here is that I've compared the units sold here, B8 to D8, less than or equal to the max units produced, H4 to J4. And just like previously, B7 to D7 should be integers. And to make things a little bit more interesting, the total number of production cannot exceed 65 million products. So after hitting solve, we can see that the tool decides to sell only iPhones and Macs and zeroing out iPad units. This is a logical move since the iPad's average price is the lowest and brings in a small portion of revenue. If Apple were to discontinue the iPad, consumers may be drawn more towards purchasing an iPhone or Mac computer with similar capabilities. By performing this analysis, it's clear that Apple has the potential to generate more revenue and profits. In my own perspective, Apple carries a large variety of products to this point that it may be diversifying too much. Divesting in iPads, which serves as an in-between, and investing more into R&D for further innovation of its more popular products like the Mac or iPhone could prove to be more beneficial in the long run. Throughout this semester, I've learned so many new skills in Excel that will surely help me in my future career. On that note, I'd like to thank Professor Wheeler for teaching me so much and offering the help when needed. And also a special shout out to my classmates who made my last semester as an undergraduate an enjoyable one. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you.